Good afternoon from Green Island Gardens. It's September. September is often a month when people complain that their gardens are looking a bit in between seasons. The summer flowers have all gone and we haven't quite got to the autumn colour of a lot of the trees and shrubs that are well known for their bright orange colours in the autumn. For me, I'm not allowed to have any time in the garden when it doesn't look good. It should look good for 12 months of the year. But September is a little bit tricky. Salvias and repeat flowering alströmerias are always great for continuing colour. But the really showstoppers that you can add at this time of year, a lot of those are in the form of bulbs. A lot of people don't think about planting bulbs for autumn or late summer colour. They think of bulbs as January, February snowdrops, crocus, daffodils, tulips, and then not a lot more after that. A lot of the garden centres and shops are full of packets of lovely looking bulbs and encouraging everyone to buy them and plant them now. But I would encourage you to go out and look at bulbs that are flowering at the moment and make a note for yourself to purchase some of these and plant them. Some of them you can plant now, but a lot of them not until next spring. But that will help to bridge the gap between summer and autumn. So this afternoon I'm going to show you some of the bulbs that we use here at Green Island Gardens to give us colour through September. One of the first signs that summer's turning into autumn is when my cyclamen come into flower in the woods. These are cyclamen hederifolium, also called cyclamen neapolitanum. They have two different names, don't ask me why. Most people just know them as autumn flowering cyclamen. They are relatives of the cyclamen, the larger blousy flowered ones that people buy in the garden centres at Christmas and often use for their Christmas decorations. But these ones are fully hardy. They're not killed by the frost. As I say, they flower late summer, August they will start probably, September, October and go well into November. They eventually, over time, build up the most enormous corm. You can see, I don't know if you can see the size of the corm this one is growing from. It's been here for well over 20 years. And when they're not in flower during the summer, they literally look like upturned dinner plates, really peculiar looking things. And then when the rain comes, as if by magic, they just burst into this lovely flower display. Originally around this chestnut tree here, which is where they like to be, in between the roots of deciduous trees, because it keeps the corms dry through the summer when they're dormant. And originally, about 20 years ago, I planted 5 little pink cyclamen around this area. And you'll see if you just pan across to the side there, we've got some white ones and some paler pink ones flowering as well. Those ones have crossed and self-seeded and now developed into a patch of their own. So you can see they're excellent. They will self-seed and multiply over time. You can grow them on the sunny bank in grass and other situations, but I really like them in this woodland situation. Similarly, about 20 years ago, in this little patch here around this hornbeam, I planted 5 of the little white cyclamen, Cyclamen hederifolium alba. These have multiplied gradually, and you can see, if you come in close, the size of these enormous corms now. And they just produce a mass of flowers every year. So these autumn flowering cyclamen tend to produce their leaves after they've flowered. They have beautiful green, marbled, veined, very attractive foliage, which lasts right through the winter and the spring. And then it dies back and they go dormant for a few months in the summer. They're not to be confused with the spring flowering cyclamen, which are called cyclamen coum. They also come in shades of pink, white, and even a really dark rosy pink. But they're not quite as vigorous. They never make this enormous size of corm as the autumn flowering ones do. And for that reason, it's not advisable to grow the 2 of them side by side, because over time, the autumn flowering ones will outcompete the spring flowering ones. Spring flowering ones, beautiful as well. Plant them in a separate place and they will self-seed and give you a beautiful show over time. I'm just going to show you this little plant here. This is Crinum Powellii. It's one of the earliest flowering bulbs in the autumn. Its common name is the swamp lily, and it's found in the tropics and subtropics at the edges of streams and marshy land, so it can withstand quite a bit of moisture. It remains evergreen in areas where it's fully hardy outside or in its native habitat, but here it will go underground for the winter. The bulbs become absolutely enormous. They don't need feeding, but they produce spires of lovely pink flowers, trumpet-shaped flowers, usually in the first few weeks of September. But this is certainly one to try again. Fully hardy here. It's grown without any problems through -10, -15. Amaryllis belladonna, one of my absolute favourite autumn flowering bulbs. They really are magnificent. Again, they just appear out of the ground, no leaves, no warning, and open up in a few days. Common name is the Jersey lily, not to be confused with the Guernsey lily, which I shall show you shortly. These, when you buy them, again, they won't be cheap per bulb, but as you can see round here, they clump up relatively quickly. You soon get a nice clump of bulbs, which can be split and divided if you like. Best planted at the base of a sunny south-facing wall. They like to bake in the summer, but they do need an adequate amount of moisture during the growing season, as with most other South African bulbs. All the books will probably tell you that Amaryllis belladonna may not be fully hardy. If I tell you that this clump had been here for about 20 years now, so that means they have survived winters that went down to -10, -15 in 2010 and 11, and -8 last year. That tells you otherwise. It is advisable, however, if it is a really cold winter, just to mulch these bulbs, cover them up with some sort of organic material, so some mulch of some sort, just to protect them a little bit. But you can see here, the ones closest to the wall have survived the best. One of the more spectacular bulbs that appear in flower in the autumn are colchicums. Lots of people know these as autumn crocus, and they do look a bit like crocuses, but they're not actually crocuses. They're colchicums, and they grow from really quite a large bulb. You can buy these at this time of year, usually in a packet, and even if you don't plant them at the moment, you can pop it in a vase or pop it on a windowsill in your kitchen, and it will flower for you, and then you can plant it afterwards. So they store all their goodness and energy in the bulb, which enables them to flower in the autumn time. These don't actually produce any leaves until next springtime, so April, May, June. You might see clumps of large, broad leaves and wonder what on earth they are, forgetting that you've planted your colchicums the year before. They are relatively expensive. You might pay up to £5 for one bulb, but they do clump up really quickly. And in a few years, you'll be able to lift and divide this after flowering and spread them around. So they're a really good investment. This one in particular is called Colchicum speciosum, and the hybrid name is Lilac Wonder. It's a really nice hybrid, and as I say, it's a good doer, clumps up nice and quickly. Here we have another colchicum. This one has got beautiful, really full double flowers, makes a really vibrant display. It's called Colchicum water lily. As you can see, it's growing in the grass quite nicely here, just on the edge of the lawn and in the areas of grass that we allow to grow much longer. And again, it will clump up nicely. It can be split after flowering or next spring when you see the leaves appear. Here in the woodland beds, you can see some more autumn crocuses, colchicums. These ones are Colchicum speciosum album. White flowering ones, I think they're really beautiful. They don't tend to be quite as vigorous as the pink flowered ones, but nevertheless beautiful to plant them. And you can see why they get their nickname or their common name of naked ladies. It's their tendency to throw up these flowers, and they appear as if by overnight, by some miracle. And then, as I say, it's not till next spring that the leaves appear. Here we've got another little colchicum, Silichicum it's called, and it's slightly more dainty than Colchicum speciosum, smaller flowers, but really, really pretty nevertheless. For those of you who have watched our bulbs video, you'll see that this is one of my favourites, Acidanthera murieli. It's often being reclassified as a gladiolus, and you can see the flowers do resemble a gladioli. But where they really differ from the common gladiolus that you get is in the size of the blooms, but most of all the perfume. They are absolutely gorgeous. White flowers tend to be pollinated by night-flying insects, and so they release their pollen even more in the evening. We plant masses of these round the terrace where we have tables and we sit in the evenings, and the scent is absolutely gorgeous. These are relatively cheap to buy. You can get a packet of them for a couple of pounds, and I would say just plant them in June and grow them as annuals. You can overwinter them in pots, lift them up and take them in, but I've not found this a satisfactory method at all. For what it costs and the effort it takes, much easier just to treat yourself to a couple of pounds packet of Acidanthera, and don't plant them too early in the spring. They are late flowering bulbs, so they don't come into growth until at least June. So best to wait until then before you plant them. Another lovely autumn flowering bulb from South Africa is Nerine Bodenii, otherwise known as the Guernsey lily. There's differing opinions as to how they got their name. Some people believe they were taken across from South Africa and cultivated in Guernsey because that's suitable conditions for them there. Other historians believe that they arrived in Guernsey naturally by sea from South Africa. Nevertheless, they are fully hardy here in the UK. They like to have their necks above the top of the soil so that they can bake nicely in the sun. They like a nice well-drained sunny spot. And although at the moment this clump, you can see just the tops of the bulbs and a few bits of green leaves showing, in about 3 weeks to a month's time, they will be a mass of naked stems with lily-like pink flowers at the top. They make a really good spectacle right through the autumn. As I said, these ones are fully hardy. There are other more modern cultivars that have been bred and other species that are worth trying, but I tend to grow those in pots. Some of these include Mr. John, Nerine Isabel, Flexuosa alba, and one of my real favourites is Nerine sarniensis corusca major. So Nerine sarniensis is one of the earlier flowering nerines. It's slightly different to the Bodeniis in that it produces its leaves at the same time as the flowers, and they look much healthier. It makes a really beautiful potful, a lovely display. This lovely, beautiful, bright orange colour is really vivid as well. So I definitely recommend going for some of these. Another lovely autumn flowering bulb is Crocus speciosus. Now these are proper genuine crocuses, unlike the colchicums that I showed you earlier that go by the common name of autumn crocus. Crocus speciosus has beautiful blue flowers and bright orange vivid stamens which just glisten like happy faces every time the sun comes out through September, October. Now they appear as if by magic. I have them planted in a carpet in amongst this lovely black grass here, and they appear as if by magic overnight and open up their faces, as I say, when the sun flowers. Also very similar to these are Crocus sativus, the saffron crocus, which you can take the stigmas of and crush those up and make saffron from them. Very flavoursome spice, aromatic spice, meant to be the one with the most flavour that you can get. But I'm told that you need about 150 bulbs to harvest all the stigmas from the flowers of those in order to get 1 gram of the spice. So good luck with that if that's what you want to do. But nevertheless, they make beautiful bulbs. So I hope that's given you a few ideas for brightening up your September-October garden. Bulbs are so easy to plant, relatively cheap and really fast rewarding because they flower the same year. It might not be the right time of year for planting some of them now, but it will be, you can certainly get nerines and colchicums and the autumn crocuses to flower, but obviously you're too late for things like the Acidanthera and the Amaryllis belladonna. So make a note and order some of those next spring. A lot of them will be available in garden centres, but people traditionally don't tend to look for the autumn flowering bulbs. So I hope, as I say, that's given you some ideas. Once again, thank you very much for watching our video, and please remember to like and subscribe our channel.